Hello again, PC Delta Link. Back with more of our Enigmatica 2 Let's Play Normal Mode, and this is episode 61. Your first question you probably are going to have is, why are we in a cobblestone box? That's because our base has been invaded currently, and I wanted you guys to see me clearing it out. So, Warp is apparently having some very bad effects on me, to the point that our base is being invaded by the Crimson Cult. As you can see, there is a freaking Crimson portal in my base. And I'm not sure how this happened, or what's up with this. I think there's... I did not invite you all in here. Please leave. Or I will force you to leave. Either option. Oh, downstairs. We're gonna check, make sure the rest of the base is clear right now. And also, I saw another one of these outside. There's actually, I don't know where these are coming from or how they're spawning, but yeah, we have more right here. Oh, apparently we got some boots. So that's kind of nice, but I don't want these Crimson people showing up in my base like this. I'm a little tired of the warp effects. I'm a little tired of, like, all the crap from that, because we're getting ready to move on in the series, as I'd said in the last episode. I really don't have anything else to add for Thaumcraft at this point. Later on, when we have more of, like, a Essentia sorting system figured out with the piping, I might have more to add, but at the moment, we are going to move on in our playthrough. So today we're going to be starting the... Gosh, this chest is full. The Nuclearcraft mod. I've decided that that's going to be our next tech mod I'm going to go into. I know extremely little about Nuclearcraft. I really haven't used it much. So I'm going to be kind of going on and learning this series with you guys. But I will do the best I can with it, and we'll try to just work through it together, so to speak. But yeah, first things first is... Good night. What is all that red on my radar over there? Oh, right. It's the garden party that goes on down there. Okay, that's fine. Alright, but anyway, yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that before I got started on the next mod. And yeah, I will see you all back in a few minutes here. So give me just a few. Okay, before we get started on Nuclearcraft, I have a couple more things to show you guys real quick. So first off, I just talked about I was getting tired of the warp effects, so I did use a console command to lower my warp level from max to around probably 30%. That way I shouldn't be, like, invaded by mind spiders. I shouldn't be invaded by eldritch guardians anymore. I mean, I wouldn't mind it because it's infrequent enough when I'm playing around if I was playing this just on my own, but since this is a Let's Play and I'm trying to show you guys stuff, I don't need the interruptions of being bothered by those things. They can't kill me. I mean, you know, I have freaking draconic armor. Basically, nothing can kill me. But they're just annoyances and hassles. I had to get rid of them or deal with the effects temporarily, and I just don't need that if I'm trying to record this for you guys. So that's why I got rid of the effects of warp for now. But anyway, on to a couple things I had to change. So, you know, we had our quantum entangleporter with the pipe leading to... Oh, is this outputting correctly? No, it isn't. There we go. This leading from the sulfuric acid tank into the chemical dissolution chamber. But for some reason, after my most recent time of, like, running the ore processing here, it never stopped downstairs. The production chain never ended. Like, ever. The reason it's still going now is I'm making a second buffer tank. So this one here. And we just went ahead and made the max size tank to just have a very nice buffer. So yeah, I actually had to create a pipe. Instead of using the quantum entanglement I had before, I had to create a pipe which basically goes into here, up the wall, through the floor, a little bit over this way, and up into the ceiling. Excuse me, there, had to yawn. And basically leading back behind that wall upstairs. So, yeah, we had to lose the quantum entanglement, but we'll have 2 buffers of sulfuric acid, so once this fills up, this will be fine. Yeah, overall the system's keeping up just fine. I did have to add a couple speed upgrades here and there, and everything's staying pretty stable, so I'm not really worried about it. So it's a bit of a slow process to get some of this stuff. Yeah, even Brian is staying fairly stable. So yeah, it's a bit slow to get some of this, but it will eventually shut off after getting rid of this finally. But the bigger change we had on this is, if we go to our little processing room, I now have automated ore processing. So before, you know, we had our 5 times ore set up upstairs, of course, but up until now, we've had to manually put the ore into it. We had to manually, like, just grab stacks of whatever we would happen to need, iron, copper, whatever, and we had to put it in there ourselves. It wasn't a big deal because first we had so much of it. I mean, we still have, you know, 3,000 copper, we have 1,500 iron in here, so it wasn't a huge deal to have to do it by hand, but now we have a system set up to where we can order it. So that quantum entanglement board with the ME interfaces you just saw downstairs, we have it to where the system will put the items into that interface, which goes into the quantum entanglement porter, which then will deposit them into this hopper. This only holds 5 spots, but when you consider that each of these can hold 64 ore in a spot, and each of those is 5 times ore, yeah, that's plenty. And with all 5 spots, you're literally looking at something like 1,500 ingots I could order in one sitting without filling up the hopper. So now, if we go to, say, craftable, you'll see we have all these bars in here now. Iron, gold, copper, steel, nickel, aluminum, lead, silver, tin, boron, thorium. Let's see, graphite, magnesium, lithium. All this stuff has been added in. We have some alloy bars, tough alloy, hard carbon, ferroboron, and extreme alloy. These are going to be required for Nuclearcraft. That's why I went ahead and added their recipes to our system, but these are made in the alloy smelter. So that's why they're in there. Here's some more stuff. The uranium, ardite, cobalt, osmium. Yeah, those have been added in. So yeah, now if I come over here and then I say, give me... Well, let's do 50 lead, sure. And we just hit start on that. And it drops it into the hopper and into our dissolution chamber, and it processes it like normal. So yeah, now I don't have to do this by hand anymore. It's a small upgrade, to be fair, but it's kind of nice. And now, really, it is kind of fully automated, so to speak. So yeah, that's a nice little upgrade, probably long overdue. Alright, but now, on to Nuclearcraft. So Nuclearcraft is one of the... Okay, again, being honest, I don't know a whole lot about the mod. I've really never used it much. I've used a couple machines for it occasionally, like the Manufactory. In fact, we have one of those for our wheat farm over there. But on the whole, it's mainly about using different nuclear fuels, nuclear power, to create... using their waste products to create more and varied different kinds of fuel. This is all the pages of fuel there is. I mean, there is... As you can see here, there is a lot of different fuel types in this. And a lot of liquids this adds, a lot of different chemical mixtures. It's a fairly complex mod, and I'm not 100% sure how to do most of the stuff that's in here. So I don't plan to cover everything in this. I plan to cover some of the more basic power gens, because at the very least for this pack, stuff, honestly, I hate to be kind of negative about this in a way, but honestly, something like this giant solar array is much easier. It takes a lot to set one of these up, but once you have something like this, you're pretty much set, and it's free and infinite power. But for those who don't want to use solar, because I get that some people don't want to use solar because it is too easy to a degree. So for those who don't want that, this would be probably a good step up for power generation. And I also want to show this to you guys partially because I want to learn it myself. So alright, I'm going to get some of the basic machines set up we need for this, and I will be back shortly. One of the things I did do before I started this is I smelted a lot of uranium, because we're going to need a lot of uranium for today. So I probably went a little overboard. I don't think we needed 3,200 of uranium, but yeah, that's how much we have. So alright, I will see you all again in a few minutes. Okay, so there is a lot of different machines in Nuclearcraft, as you can see is mousing over a lot of these. And there's a lot of intermediate parts that go with this, and a lot of different ingots and alloys I had to add to my AE system if I wanted to craft them automatically. So I'm going to try to go through all this. You can see we even added crafting tables, because I think later on we'll end up needing more. But for right now, this would be good to get started with. Alright, so one of the first things that we're going to look at is the basic plating. This is made from lead and graphite dust. Graphite dust comes from breaking down graphite ingots, which either in a pulverizer or a sag mill or the manufactory, which we've already made one of these, but we'll be going through this again shortly. And to get the graphite ingot... Oh, and it looks like the manufacturer can just break down pulverized coal into graphite. Well, that would save a step. Pulverized coal obviously is just from grinding down coal, but you can also smelt coal to get graphite. Let's see here. Well, hang on. There we go. So yeah, smelting just basic coal will get you a graphite ingot. So you can either get to pulverized coal or just smelt a coal ingot. Either way, however you want to get to graphite dust, that's up to you. But just 2 of those and 2 lead equals a basic plane. And this can be changed. It doesn't have to be like this. You can have the lead and graphite reversed, and it still works. I think it has to be, yeah, they have to be diagonal for each other, but otherwise their orientation does not matter. So you'll use that for a lot of different machines. The next little intermediate crafting item is the copper solenoid. This is from 4 copper and 2 iron, and you get 2, which is kind of nice. So it's not too bad to make. Next thing we're going to move on to, this is the electric motor. This is also used in a few different machines. This is gold nugget, 4 steel, 2 copper solenoid, and an iron ingot, and that gets you 1 electric motor. So keep this recipe in mind as well. Another component for a lot of machines, this is the machine chassis. This comes from lead, steel, 4 of each of those. And then our first new metal here, tough alloy, which I'm not sure we've used this before. I don't think we have, so I'll go through it. So tough alloy comes from lithium and ferroboron, and that gets you 2. Lithium is straightforward enough because we have lithium, or ferroboron is another alloy that comes from boron and steel. And you get 2. So at least you do get a little bit of energy, or a little bit of profit out of this, getting 2 out of this, which, yeah. But you'll be making a lot of tough alloy, because tough alloy is used in a lot of recipes in this mod pack. So, alright. The first thing we're going to be crafting is we are going to be wanting another manufactory in case we need it for this. So, we have our lead, copper solenoid, a piston, flint, and a piece of redstone, and that gets us a manufactory, so we'll take that with us. This is another intermediate component that's actually used in slightly higher tier machines, but this is advanced plating. And this comes from a basic plating with 4 redstone and 4 tough alloy. So again, kind of high on the cost, because you're already getting into slightly more expensive, because of course most machines are going to use more than 1 plating of this. But still, it's not terrible yet. And then let's see, we got a couple other machines we're going to get here. So we're going to need the nuclear furnace. And this is from 4 basic plating, 4 tough alloy, and a regular furnace. And this furnace, this is kind of unique. It smelts items using uranium and thorium ingots and dust as fuel. I have not tried this furnace yet. I will look at it between episodes to see how fast it functions, because it's actually not super expensive. Yeah, the tough alloy is a little annoying to get, but otherwise it's fairly cheap. And it'd be interesting to see how efficient it is for fuel usage. So I'll take a look at that in the next episode. I'll let you guys know when I find out. Alright, next thing we're going to need is... And I'm just kind of making this just to have a Nuclearcraft version of it, but Nuclearcraft has its own alloy furnace. We have, of course, our alloy smelter from oh gosh, what is it? Ender.io. We have our alloy smelter from Ender.io, of course. And then you have the alloy furnace from Nuclearcraft. And it can work just the same way. The only big difference between the two machines, and you do have to keep this in mind, so you can use any of the Nuclearcraft recipes in the alloy smelter. That's actually where I had them all set up downstairs. But do keep in mind, if the alloy furnace from Nuclearcraft only has 2 input slots, not 3. There are some recipes from the alloy smelter, you may recall, that do require 3 different inputs. So obviously those recipes cannot be used in the Nuclearcraft alloy furnace. It won't work. So just something to keep in mind. But we're going to need these nuclear furnace to make something else here shortly. Another thing we're going to need... Oh, let's grab the alloy furnace. We're going to need, if I can find it... I may not have set it up. I don't think I did set it up, actually. Okay. We need an isotope separator. This thing right here. So this is required to... We are going to be using this to turn our uranium ingots that we made. You saw we had like 3,000 uranium. We're going to be turning those into isotopes. So, for instance... Yeah, here's our uranium right here. We're going to be turning into uranium-238 and tiny clumps of uranium-235. So that's our goal for that. You can see this thing has quite a few different recipes with many, many different like outputs for different fuels usage that you break down here. So this is a very important piece of equipment. So we are going to go ahead and make this. And you can see there's quite a lot of different fuels you can break down in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this. This is where the first thing that we'll need the electric motor for. So we'll need one of these. We're going to take the other one off the table. And then the machine chassis, we'll need that for this as well, so we'll take that. So now let's jump back over here and we'll craft this. Oh, and we're missing a plate. No big deal. We'll just get that. I'll make a few of those and dump them back in the system. That's fine. So, alright, there's our isotope separator. So, yeah, tube motor, machine chassis, plate, redstone. Not difficult. Kind of annoying with the intermittent materials you'll need for that. But it could be worse. One thing I probably will need is I'm going to need another quantum entangleporter. So, if this system would kindly get to work on crafting the whole bunch of stuff it takes to make that, that would be very nice. Alright, so yes, we are going to be building a fission reactor, which is the basic reactor you can create in Nuclearcraft, as far as I'm aware. This is the lowest step down. There are some very high-tier reactors in this mod, and I will try to get to those eventually if I can figure out how to make it work without blowing up the base. That's the idea here. And also, I should point out, the main idea in Nuclearcraft is you want to take basic fuel that you start with, like our uranium-235 and 238 that we're going to be stuck with for now, and you want to eventually use that and process it to get higher fuel that is better fuel and produces more power. That's the idea. So, I don't know how far we'll get. I'm not even sure which is the best fuel, and there's just so many in here. And something else you can get, and this part kind of applies to the expert mode packs, but I am going to kind of go into this. At least this applies to Enigmatica 2 expert. But here we have these RTGs here. You can see uranium, plutonium, americium, and californium. And the californium all the way produces 300 RF per tick, with the lowest one, uranium, 50 RF per tick. And these produce power forever and constantly. They are basically an unlimited free power source. Why this is important in the expert world packs is that you can find these in the world. there are dragons in the expert packs, and in their nests, they have tons of treasure chests all over their nests. There's some on the surface, there's some underground, but if you get really lucky, you can find one of these RTGs in one of their chests. And especially in early game on expert, that is a huge boon because that gives you a huge amount of free power. And normally, being an expert pack, it would be really hard to get a hold of that kind of power that early. I got pretty lucky in the expert pack I did with a friend of mine, and we did come across a Californium RTG. I think we also got a uranium one, or a plutonium. I don't remember which one, but we did get a Californium and something else. So we did have a pretty good amount of free power early on in that pack. But yeah, that's mainly just something to keep in mind for that. We are eventually going to try to get Californium fuel, because I think that's supposed to be a higher tier one. So we're going to eventually try to work our way through the different fuel tiers to reach Californium, so you can make these yourself too if you want to. So, alright. So yes, we're going to be making a fusion reactor, like I said. And the first thing we're going to need is this fission reactor. I said fusion reactor. Fission reactor. We'll need fission reactor casing. This isn't too expensive. It's just basic plating and then a tough alloy. So that's really not terrible. Could be a lot worse. You can also get glass, of course, transparent fission reactor casing. And this is just the same recipe with glass in the corners. Same amount of blocks, so you're not losing anything there. Alright, now the reactor itself has a few different components. So, first off, how these fuels work is that you see they have a base processing time, a base power generated per tick, and then a base heat generated per tick. So you have to balance out your power and your heat generation, because if your heat gets too high, your reactor melts down, and that's bad, obviously. So to mitigate that, there are different modifiers you build into the case with the fuel. So you have your reactor cells, and this is what holds the fuel and is what depletes it. The more of these you have in it, the more power you generate, but also the more heat you generate, and the faster you burn through the fuel you created. So reactor cells, I've got those. That's the empty cooler. Reactor cell, right here. 4 tough alloy and glass. So see, I said you need a lot of tough alloy. Here's where it starts to get a little bit heavier on the usage of it. So yeah, that gets you a reactor cell. We're going to go ahead and take that one. But there are these different coolers. So you have water, redstone, quartz, gold, glowstone, lapis, etc., etc. A lot of different choices here. These coolers will reduce the heat output from your fission reactor. So like, see here, the water cooler says cooling rate 20 heat per tick. But these blocks usually have an additional rule that goes with them. Either that can make them function more efficiently, or just for them to function at all. So like, for instance, the water cooler says it must be adjacent to at least one reactor cell or active moderator block. Moderator block, let me see if I can find... Yeah, it looks like just the graphite and beryllium, but you see it says fission reactor modifier. So, and even this has rule. So, graphite is only considered active if adjacent to at least one reactor cell. Active graphite increases the reactor's efficiency, but also produces some extra heat. So, these modifiers basically make your reactor more efficient, but they do have the cost of more heat. So, but again, that's the modifier. Whenever one of these blocks talk about modifiers, that's where those come in. So like, here's an interesting one. So here you have gold, and it must be adjacent to at least one valid water cooler and one valid redstone cooler. And see, like, redstone cooler must be adjacent to one reactor cell. But then you have iron cooler must be adjacent to at least one valid gold cooler. So see, there's all kinds of little interplay between these different coolers. And all of them have different cool rates. The best for raw numbers, I believe, is cryothium, which, if you have any knowledge of Minecraft, you probably have heard of cryothium, or gelid cryothium, as I'm used to calling it that. Cryothium is very difficult to get a hold of, usually. It's made from cryothium dust, which is actually from blizz powder. Blizz comes from blizz rods. And if you haven't either done a lot of research on Minecraft, you might not even know what blizzes are. You know of blazes in the nether, of course, but blizzes are the ice version of blazes. And they only spawn in certain ice biomes, and they're incredibly rare, and I've never actually seen one in a game that I've played, because of how rare they are. There used to be a way to generate cryothium automatically through some different... I don't think exploits is the right word, but different ways you could create it, but now that's not quite as much. Now the only way to generate it automatically would be with liquid experience, but that's not necessarily easy for me to get a hold of. I've never built a mob farm to farm experience, so I'm not 100% sure how to automate experience. So we'll probably be skipping the cryothium coolers, even though they're probably the best. But we'll have plenty of other choices, and yeah, we'll make this work somehow. So we're going to grab these empty coolers. And let's see here. I'll go ahead and grab these, and I will just throw them back in our other place. Back in our AE system. So the next thing we're going to need is we need the fission controller. And this is going to be required to actually, of course, interact with our fission reactor. Now this requires advanced plating, so we need 4 advanced plating, of course our machine chassis, and then this magnesium diboride solenoid. And now, I know for you guys this really looks like a bunch of black bars, so I am going to show you the positions of them, because otherwise it all looks the exact same. They are just slightly different. It's like charcoal and ebony. I mean, the black shades of black are so similar here. So we have magnesium diboride alloy at the top and bottom, and then in the middle you have tough alloy. And that gets you 2. So magnesium diboride alloy, this comes from boron and magnesium in the alloy smelter, or of course the alloy furnace. And you get 3 of them. So it's a pretty good recipe at least. I have taught this to the AE system, so it can make this automatically for us. So we'll need both of these. Alright, now we need some... I need 3 more advanced plating, and I'm not sure I have enough. Oh, I do. Okay, there's 4 of that. And then, am I missing anything else? Yeah, I need another machine chassis, so let's grab that. And now, finally, let's create the fission controller, just like that. And we'll drop some of this back in here. We'll drop the magnesium back in here. We'll drop the tough alloy back in there. We are going to need more casing. So we'll go ahead and grab that. And actually, we need more basic casing, too, for that matter. So we'll go and... Well... Oh, and we're out of tough alloy. So you see, we're going to have some issues here. We're going to have to spend some time between episodes. We are pretty close to out of time for this episode, so I'm going to have to spend some time getting some of this ready. What I will show you is where I've decided we're going to have the Nuclearcraft area. So I don't have a super quick way to get to this place yet, but it's repurposing an older area. So this is currently the room I've dug out to get started on it, and where I'll probably end up creating our first fission reactor down here. But yeah, I'll eventually have an elevator or a travel anchor or some way to get here in a more streamlined fashion. And of course, I could probably just put in a teleport waypoint, but we'll get to that at some other time. But yeah, so that's going to be our Nuclearcraft room. We can always expand this. This is actually the room below our farm area. This is the processing. This is our hydrogen line. So this is right under where our ethylene gas-burning generators are at. So that's why you can hear those up there. But yeah, I decided I was looking around at where I could put it, and this seemed like a decent spot underground to hide this stuff for now. So alright, and it should be close enough if I need to. I can link it to the AE system. I should be able to... Well, of course, I'll have a quantum entangleporter over here for power and all that good stuff. So alright, I think that's where we're going to leave off for now in this episode. So thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I hope you all are looking forward to Nuclearcraft as much as I am, because this is just as much me learning about it as it is me showing you guys what I've learned. So thank you all very much, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.